Hey Ninox, I can't help but notice that you're making a video about a visual novel. What are you, some kind of weeb? What? What are you trying to say? That I can't play some stupid visual novel without being instantly labeled as some kind of obsessed weirdo? Okay, whatever you say, dude. Anyway, on an unrelated note, I've been thinking I might start trying to appeal to a bit of a different demographic with my videos from now on, so a couple of you might notice a few changes here and there, but don't worry about it. Ohayo minasan. Ryu ga waga teki o kurau, minasan. Mi o shitete mo, myori wa shitezu. Okay. Just for your sake, I'll keep things easy for you to understand and refrain from using the superior tongue. Welcome, everyone, to my YouTube video on the internet about my experiences with a visual novel. This particular piece of media is known as Danganronpa, which honestly just makes me feel ridiculous when I say it, so I will try to avoid doing so for the foreseeable future. Alright, I know as little about this game as you do. Probably less, actually, if you're watching this in the first place. I know that this game involves murder at some point, I think. And I know that whenever you look this game up on Google, you see a stupid bear thing. Loading this game up for the first time, you're immediately greeted with a weird cutscene of a dumb little bear thing murdering someone, so I'm glad to see my expectations are already met within the first 30 seconds of my experience. This scene is a little weird, and I'm not sure what kind of tone they're going for, or if I should be concerned, or disturbed, or unsettled, or jamming out, bro. So, that was weird and seemingly irrelevant to the rest of the game. Quickly afterwards, though, we get the real introduction, where we meet our hero and protagonist Makoto, who fills us in on the basic setting we're working with here. Ah yes, well, this is a Japanese piece of media, so of course it takes place at a high school. This one is called Hope's Peak Academy. Hope's Peak Academy's thing is that they cherry-pick the country's most prodigious students and give them super education. So the cast of characters at the school that make up this game are people like the ultimate programmer, the ultimate baseball star, the ultimate biker gang leader. Yes, of course, the classic model student everyone wants to represent their school. Gang leaders. Good to see that things aren't too different between the school systems in Japan and America. Otherwise, somebody like me would probably be very incredulous. Thing about being the most talented kid in a particular field, though, is that it's not very relatable. That's why the main character of this story, and the person we play as, is a completely insignificant, unexceptional, boring, worthless waste of nutrients. Just like me! And I like how they try and pretend as though he's not just this way to be easier to identify with. Yeah, you're not fooling anyone, guys. But how does he end up attending this school for super students then, if he's not the ultimate anything? Well, you see, the school holds a lottery to select an ordinary high school student to get thrown into the mix, just to shake things up and afflict that student with a huge inferiority complex for the rest of their life. This person is considered the ultimate lucky student. So, there you go. So our boy Makoto arrives at the school to be pretty much immediately sent to the minus realm and knocked unconscious. Damn, this game's just jumping into it, huh? I appreciate that. Thank you for not making me live a day or week or eternity in the shoes of this average high schooler before things actually start to happen in the story. Thanks. We wake up in a classroom, surprisingly not chained or tied in place and not awaiting some kind of Saw-like trial of torture like I was expecting. We are certainly locked in the school, though. The windows and doors are all sealed, and every room has high-tech cameras everywhere. Leaving the classroom, we find that, oh shit, there's a game in this game. Snap, dude, I can run around at the discretion of my own free will and everything. Wow, neat. But no, we leave the classroom to quickly find the rest of the students gathered in one place. Of course, everybody is confused, and there are many discussions about exactly what's going on with varying degrees of disbelief and fear and anger, but this is also the point where we are introduced to all the other characters. I'm about to throw a lot of Japanese names and faces your way in quick succession, so brace yourself, and I hope you've got a good memory to familiarize yourself with these people, but not too well, because, some of them are gonna die, dude. First up, we got Sayaka, resident pop singer, love interest, and sidekick. She's probably the most important character at the moment. Then we have Leon. I feel like he's supposed to be kind of lion-esque, and his name is Leon, which is in fact very similar to the word lion, but I'm not sure. Hifumi is the obnoxious comic relief / nerd and loser of the group. His claim to fame is being the ultimate fanfic writer, or artist, I guess. The dude draws porn. Let's move on. Taka is the ultimate moral compass. Basically, he's that pushy 12-year-old hall monitor that's drunk with power and unwavering adherence to the rules. Toko is the extremely antisocial and nervous weirdo of the cast. She's a prolific writer of romance novels, and she's super insecure. Aoi, or Hina, I guess, is the athletic girl who's also kind of stupid. Chihiro is a genius programmer who's the, oh, I'm sorry, character. Mondo is the ultimate gang leader dude I mentioned earlier. He's the guy with a temper that punches everything, of course. He also has very dumb hair, but it's good to know who to come to if we're like starving to death or something, I guess. And he also swears a lot.
Nice to fucking meet ya.
Stick with me, friends, we're over halfway done. Junko is a fashion model and surprisingly not a jerk. Kyoko is mysterious. She's also super calm about everything, and she seems to maybe have some kind of outsider knowledge upon what's going on. We don't even get to know what her title is, so it's probably like ultimate freaking plot device or something. Byakuya is also extremely composed and calculating. He is the ultimate affluent progeny, which is a bit of a mouthful, but basically he's rich. His talent is being rich. I would vote for this dude to be most likely to be the murderer in a murder mystery. Yasuhiro, or Hiro, is the ultimate clairvoyant, and who I would vote for as most likely to be murdered in a murder mystery. Sakura is the ultimate martial artist, and also a lady. And finally, Celestia Ludenberg is a gambler, and also a very strange person that looks like a gothic Lolita android and pretty much behaves as strangely as one, too. After introducing themselves, everyone continues to discuss and argue about the circumstances they find themselves under. Everybody else fell unconscious when they entered the school, just like you did, and anything they were carrying with them has been taken away. At this point, a very teddy bear-like figure appears on the monitor in the room and instructs the students to meet in the gym. So, I don't really know why Japan has such a fixation on these cute mascot characters. I'm not going to act like I'm well-versed enough in anime and games like this to know if this character, Monokuma, is supposed to be some kind of subversion parody. Honestly, this character just seems weird and I don't really like it, but I also always find these kind of characters to be pretty fucking annoying, so that one's on me, I guess. So you've got this little teddy bear dude who has the classic kind of mascot voice and acts wacky and silly and hilarious, but also wants to watch each and every one of these students viscerally murder each other. Monokuma at this point lays most of the cards on the table, so let's go over the setup now that he's explained what everybody's here for. Alright, so you've got this school that's supposed to be an amazing super school that produces perfect people that never fail at anything in life and probably cure cancer and end world hunger and everything. This is of course a ruse to lure in a bunch of prodigies so that this bear can make them all kill each other. Seems like he's doing kind of a Joker in the Dark Knight sort of thing, where he maybe gets off on showing how even the best of society can fall to the bottom of the moral scale, or something. Might just be a super sadist, kinda hard to say at this point. So he's got all these people trapped, and he's like, you will live here forever, cut off from the outside world unless you kill somebody else. If you murder someone, then you get to go home as long as nobody figures out that you were the murderer. So here's our game. This is the setup for the whole thing. The cards have been carefully sorted, placed on the table. At this point, there are also some rules established for living here at the Murder Mansion. Some of these rules are smaller details that factor more into logic puzzles to figure out, things later on, such as the water turning off and most public places being closed after 10 p.m., just the logistics of living here, you know? Others are a little more important, such as if you attack the bear or destroy cameras, you'll freaking die. What I like about this part of the game, though, is that despite a short scene highlighting the immediate paranoia everyone else had after the killing revelation, nobody actually steps forth and commits any crimes for a while. I was rolling my eyes at how it seemed like all of the characters were going to start freaking out intensely right away, but to my pleasant surprise, they instead acted like how you might expect and went on to continue to look for ways out of the school together. They even agree to all meeting up every morning for breakfast so that they can better keep tabs on each other and keep track of everyone. It's good stuff. By now, there's an obvious relationship forming between our boy Makoto and the pop star Sayaka. It's super generic anime love interest type stuff, complete with a backstory of how they used to go to the same school and she'd always noticed him even though she was super popular and always wanted to talk to him, but never got the chance. It's pretty tired stuff, but there you go. This is also where the gameplay really starts to open up. You can, again, do this first-person exploration of the school, which is already neat, and that alone gives me a sense of agency far beyond just being stuck in text boxes all day. But you can even choose to spend your time with certain students in a dating sim-esque way, complete with gifts that will increase your relationship with them. I'm not sure how much having good relationships with people actually affects the story, but there are a lot more gameplay systems present here than I was expecting, which I'm digging. The game greatly encourages you to spend your time with your assistant, Sayaka, whatever that even means. But she seemed really boring and lame, and I wasn't a fan of the generic subplot forming between her and the MC, and what can I say, I'm just a rebel at heart, so I took the opportunity instead to hang out with the much cuter and more pleasant Chihiro, the programmer. All this downtime just hanging out making new friends is neato, and continues to show that these characters are all somewhat reasonable people that don't just go crazy and start killing each other at the drop of a hat like I'd feared. That's certainly a problem though, because that is the entire point of the game and the story and everything, which the stupid bear realizes, so he decides to try and motivate the students' actions by implying to them all that he has captured, killed, or otherwise harmed their loved ones. He gives everybody a videotape showing something like their house being completely ransacked and destroyed, which opens up a lot of questions about the logistics and believability of being able to do something like this, especially in Sayaka's case with her pop star friends. But these questions are brought up in the game, so the fact that it's at least lampshading this for now gives me hope that the answer will make sense. This news, of course, starts putting everybody into a bit of a panic, and so what happens next is the first event that really shakes things up. If you're watching this without having played this game but are considering doing so, then I'll warn you now that we're about to get to the point where people start dying and stuff, so be advised. Alright, so the game at this point takes a turn that just made me appreciate it so much. All that setup the game was doing with you and Sayaka, yeah, you remember that? Yes, well, consider those tropes subverted! Wait, what's that? Oh, that's not enough for you? Oh, alright, well, how about just having your favorite surprisingly endearing, attractive, twin-tailed model girl slain before your very eyes too because the game feels like it. Whew. Things sure can heat up pretty quickly around these parts, huh? So long, Junko. Your hilarious face will be missed. But that's not as important as the other thing, because the other thing was definitely murder. So, Detective, looks like it's time to grab your pipe and get to work. The setup for this first puzzle is that you and Sayaka decided to swap rooms the night of the murder because she'd heard somebody try and get into her room and was really freaked out and positive that somebody was out to kill her. So naturally, your first instinct was to trade spaces with you, so that when the killer comes back and stabs you instead, you can warn everybody with your blood-curdling screams. Thanks, Sayaka, you're a true friend. Of course, you accepted the offer, but shit, wouldn't you know that Sayaka was the one to end up dead anyway? Kyoko pops up at about this point and starts investigating, giving you clues and advice on what to look out for yourself. She's remained completely unfazed by everything that's happened so far, and at this point I wouldn't be surprised if she turned out to be the ultimate detective or something, but who knows. So you've got a dead girl in your bathroom, and during your analysis of that room, you spot a message that she seemed to manage to scribble with her dying breath. And no, I have no idea why the blood is pink in this game, the art style is weird. The game starts talking about how mysterious these numbers are and what they could possibly mean, and oh, you'd better go talk to the programmer because obviously they would know what random numbers mean, right? But I've played a mystery game or two in my time. I've watched some detective movies and shows and maybe even read a book once. I know the kinds of tricks you guys like to pull with stuff like this. So I'm thinking, you know what? This is probably actually a word. Noel? Ilor? Oh wait, it's Leon. Wait, isn't that straight up just the name of someone? Yep. Pretty tough mystery, guys. So that kind of took the wind out of my sails a bit, partly because I was pretty sad that a character I liked was going to be out of the game so quickly, but mostly just because now I had to have Kyoko act all superior and shit right in my face like I'm some kind of sheep that needs to be guided around. She'd freaking point out how to solve the crime right there, but the game just kind of goes on with acting all suspenseful anyway. I mean, no judgment on those that didn't notice this detail. I was just fortunate to assume that they were trying to pull some kind of trick here, but the game does take a pretty risky move on drawing so much attention to this. I guess it would be a pretty good reveal if it works, but yeah, now I'm just kind of coasting through the rest of the story waiting for the actual trial to begin. It's not too long before we get to that though, thankfully. The trials are very interesting. On one hand, there are plenty of mechanics that are probably familiar to anyone that's played a Phoenix Wright game. Things like spotting contradictions in stories and linking evidence to those contradictions. But Danganronpa also really wanted to make this part, intense. So you've got to use your fucking truth bullets to shoot down the false statements, and you actually do have to aim. You have a super meter, which lets you slow down time. You have goddamn skills, which you can equip to give you bonuses and effects. And at the very end of the trial, you're playing a rhythm game for some reason. The trials are weird, man. I can't say I really like it, but there's still a lot of just discussion about the details of the murder and just going through the specifics to piece together what happened. And the weird action segments don't really disrupt this too much, especially because there are difficulty modes for it. One thing I thought was interesting in Danganronpa is that if the students fail to identify who the murderer is, then everybody except for the murderer is killed. It seemed like for a scenario that was designed to be first and foremost morbidly entertaining, that this has a really high potential for the outcome to just be that the killer wins, and so he's set free and everyone else just dies, leaving the time and effort of capturing everyone just to go to waste, only having had one murder and one trial take place. Seems like it would have been better to leave everyone alive instead, or maybe just kill one extra person as punishment, fueling the students' paranoia and anger and despair. All the more, but whatever floats your boat, I guess, Mr. Teddy Bear Dude. The gamification of these trials can also be kind of awkward when you get to the very end of this section, having given all the students more than enough evidence to know who the killer actually is, but fail the final rhythm section causing everyone's death because for some reason they wouldn't still vote for the obvious murderer. But I'm nitpicking, I'll be honest. Anyway, get wrecked, Leon. Sucks to see you go, man. And, oh yeah! Here's something neat. Sayaka is a horrible, awful person, because it's heavily implied that the entire game she was just playing you and being completely dishonest with her affection because she wanted to use you and possibly kill you from the very start. Also, she tried to kill Leon first. So, thanks Leon for your contribution to society. Sorry to hear about the whole being pummeled to death with baseballs because evil bears love irony. The second chapter of the story introduces the second floor of the school, a whole new section to explore. There's a pool up here, and I have to assume that the ultimate swimmer dies here, right? There's a workout room for each different sex, a library, and a couple classrooms. On top of that, a couple new rooms in the old part of the school have opened too, a bath area and a storage room. So many cool new places to kill people, yay. We learned just a little more to hint at what's going on behind the scenes here too. In the library, there's a letter from Hope's Academy, which is the name of the school everyone's currently trapped in, explaining that despite their success preparing their students best for the future, they're forced to close due to reasons beyond their control. So make of that what you will, but Hope's Academy being evil wasn't always the case, it seems. The next morning, everyone meets in the dining hall, as always, but somebody's missing this time. Byakuya, the snobby and aloof progeny, is nowhere to be found. The students all set out to look for him, but of course it falls on you to check the one place that he'll ultimately be. Now, I liked Byakuya. I thought his personality type seemed like an important one to mix things up among the cast, and I tend to just like people who can keep their cool under trying circumstances, even if they do seem kind of evil and likely to kill someone if they weren't done in first. I'd be sad and surprised to see Byakuya done away with so soon, but then again I also would have said the same thing probably for like all three of the people that died already. I enter the library to find that he's just been here the whole time, just chillin', reading mystery novels like a nerd. Everyone else shows up and confronts him about why he's abandoned breakfast, which they all agree to, and he pretty much just reveals that he's a huge asshole who blatantly is preparing to be the final person alive by any means necessary. He announces his intention to distance himself from the rest of the group, which seems like the opposite of what you'd want to do to be the ultimate victor. But he also says that he's worried about the food being poisoned or something, so he's just gonna be off doing his own thing. Toko, the incredibly insecure novelist, also decides to stop cooperating with the group because she's ridiculously paranoid and she would rather hang out with Byakuya. Yeah, fair choice. Not like he was just saying that he basically wants to kill every single person in this school or anything. I'm sure this will work out really well for you, Toko. All the best. Now that the harmony of the group is beginning to fracture, it seems like a great time to start forming some relationships with some people. I originally wanted to hang out with Byakuya, but sadly it seems like that's not actually an option, at least at this point in the game. I was hoping to get to know him better because he seems like an interesting dude, but oh well. Instead, I guess I'll keep hanging out with Chihiro because, I'll be honest, she's just straight up the cutest, most innocent and pure character around. But also at the same time, she wants to get over her faults, and her desire to improve herself as a person is super admirable. I'm sure to start up a friendship with Kyoko as well, because she just screams, "I'm the female lead, I'm extremely important, and likely to be the deuteragonist of the entire story. Hello, I'm extremely important." And then I also decided to hang out with Toko, because I feel like she could really use a friend. And finally, along with her, I also decided to hang out with my dog Mondo, the gang leader dude.
Don't fuck with me.
I really like Mondo. Seems like the classic guy who's tough on the surface, but with a heart of gold, which is kind of a trope, but one that I just can't help but love. He seems like a pretty cool dude, so long as you disassociate yourself from the fact that he's attacked innocent police officers, endangered tons of innocent lives on the road, and probably actually killed people and done all kinds of awful shit that I don't know about. But I mean, I wasn't there to see that, so it might as well not have happened. Welcome to the Best Friends Forever crew, Mondo. Glad to have you here, dude. These two characters, Mondo and Chihiro, also seem to like each other too, which is a happy coincidence. I like to imagine that we'll be able to combine our efforts to make the perfect trio of brute force, book smarts, and detective ability that can get us to the very end together. So, it's been a whole 5 minutes without anyone having killed anyone else at this point, and Monokumo finds himself quite bored, so it's time for him to use his OP connections to try and motivate some action out of the students. This time, he's gone and threatened to expose every character's deepest, darkest secret. And honestly, I hate this kind of thing in stories because it's usually not grounded in any kind of logical sense. I know, I'm playing a visual novel about an evil toy bear that's captured like 15 kids and forced them to all kill each other, but there's a difference between being comedically powerful in a setting which is kind of unbelievable but still possible, right, and actually being omniscient. It's not the biggest deal ever, but man, like I said, I just hate this kind of thing. I hope that there's a good reason for it or something, but anyway. Most of the students pretty much agree at this point that threatening to expose their secrets isn't really a big deal, which I actually think is totally reasonable and good. Certainly some people probably do have secrets that they wouldn't mind murdering someone over, but I like that most of the characters are mature enough to not be fazed by it too much. I'm foolishly hoping that there's still enough trust among the group to keep most people safe. Of course, nobody is ever truly safe in a game where the whole premise is to kill. So, the next morning you wake up to the news that something happened to one of your classmates. Only 4 people are there to greet you at the dining hall, and they've all received the same news. So you set out to find what happened, and if you're anything like me, you beeline for the second floor with all of the new rooms, and you're hoping that your homies Mondo and Chihiro aren't dead. God damn it! Why do you have to be like this, game? So, Chihiro's dead. She's been propped up in a very specific way, too. There's a legend that was brought up a little bit earlier in the game of a serial killer called Genocide Jack. Genocide Jack has this calling card, apparently. He leaves the word bloodlust written at the scene of every murder that he commits. So, everyone's thinking that Genocide Jack is either a student at this... Get this off of the screen, me! Get this off the screen! I don't want to look at this all day. It makes me sad. Jeez. So either Genocide Jack is part of the school roster right now, or somebody is faking it, probably to obfuscate themselves as the killer, and my goodness is this case just full of plot twists. You see, it's both, actually. As it turns out, Genocide Jack is among the students, but had absolutely nothing to do with this murder. How intriguing, and kind of silly, but we'll get into that in a minute. This case was really interesting to me in that instead of Kyoko continuing to be the detective mentor character like last time, you actually spend this chapter hanging out with Byakuya instead, who is also intelligent enough to be piecing together exactly how this unfolded. He takes you to an archive room in the library with information on pretty much everything important that's ever happened in the world, as he casually drops the weird bombshell that not only is the world pretty much run from the shadows by a few prestigious families, but he belongs to one of them. Being in such a position, he was able to read lots of unsolved cases on murders and mysteries just like the Genocide Jack killings, which is how he knows for a fact that this has to be the real deal and not a copycat murder, because one of the calling cards Jack always left was never publicized. Now, at this point I'm thinking that it seems pretty likely that Byakuya did this himself then, of course, since he clearly knew about this calling card. The only question was whether or not this is what the game wanted me to think, when in actuality it was the simple, obvious answer that Genocide Jack really was the perpetrator. But then, what if it was a triple bluff and it was indeed Byakuya? I decided to hold off on making conclusions for the moment. It's also mentioned in some police files you read here that it's likely Jack has dissociative identity disorder, you know, like a split personality thing. And right before the very scene explaining this, you have a story beat where Toko is holed up in her room, freaking out and saying things like, "I'm sorry I couldn't keep my promise. I won't let Genocide Jack have control ever again." And your character's response is, "Oh wow, she's so scared, maybe she really believes Jack is the killer. Wow, she's so scared Jack will kill her. Wow." Jesus Christ. Holy shit, Makoto, you're a fucking prodigy, dude. I was wrong the whole time. Kyoko isn't the ultimate detective. It was you all along, man. Give yourself a hand. Congratulations, you're a hero, Makoto. You did it. You solved the case. You cracked the code. You saved us. Oh, Jesus Christ. At this point, I'm starting to feel pretty disrespected as a player, so when the trial comes around and Genocide Jack is summoned from Toko's conscience, complete with a crazy killer voice and face, I'm getting a little worn down here. This is a little much for me, game. And for how long it plays this plot point straight, I really did think that the game was going to have Toko be the murderer. Thankfully, this ridiculously foreshadowed outcome was a huge red herring, and you finally do jump tracks onto Byakuya instead halfway through the trial. And the problem with this, in my opinion, is that they just spend too long trying to trick you into following the Genocide Jack narrative. Sitting through so much dialogue when you either know that it's a bluff by the game or don't think it's a bluff, which makes it just seem so stupid, really starts to wear down your patience. Or mine, at least. And the whole Genocide Jack portrayal is still too hard for me to take seriously, but whatever. I'm moving on now. We're hammering down Byakuya as the killer, and my faith in the game has been largely restored. After some, whoa, intense shootout segments, though, Byakuya starts goading you into proving why he must be the killer, and the game makes a huge effort of pointing this out. I mean, even Makoto is noticing this, So you're starting to realize now where the game is going with this, and that Byakuya is not actually the true culprit of this crime. Because it turns out that it was actually... Turns out that it was actually Mondo the whole time. My boy Mondo, how could you do this to me, bro? We were supposed to be... You ruined my hopes and dreams, you scum lord! Oh, damn it. I can't believe that the swearing, violent, rude gang lord character actually turned out to be an awful person. This has got to be against some kind of rules or something. Oh, and also, Chihiro is a man. I don't even know what planet I'm on anymore. Up is down, blue is sideways, everything I thought I knew is a lie. Why didn't you tell me, Chihiro? After all the time we spent together, after all those cheat code books I bought your friendship with, where was the trust? We could have been hitting the gym together, man. I like working out. It just didn't have to end this way. Alright, so here's the rundown of what happened during this bonkers day. Chihiro wanted to get stronger and improve as a person, bless his heart. He was always self-conscious on the topic of strength and manliness, so he found that it was easier to ignore his insecurities and just live as a woman instead. When this secret of his was threatened to be exposed by Monokuma, he decided that it was time to face himself and improve in the ways he'd always wanted to. He'd seen that Mondo would often go on about things like keeping manly promises, so he approached him and told him his secret, hoping that Mondo could help him become more of a man. Chihiro wanted to start improving himself physically and becoming stronger physically, so the two went to go work out at the gym at night where nobody was likely to see that Chihiro was in the men's gym. Turns out that Mondo has always been incredibly insecure about his manliness too, so when Chihiro approached him asking for his help on being a man, which he viewed both as a mocking gesture and something to be jealous of, that Chihiro could confront his weaknesses where Mondo was fixated on the idea of his weakness killing his brother, he just couldn't handle it. He lost himself. He couldn't face the idea of such a secret being revealed to the world. So he kills Chihiro then and there in the gym. And yeah, that's what happened. I don't really know what we've learned here today. Everyone sucks and I'll never be happy. That playing this game and getting attached to any character is nothing but a recipe for endless goddamn despair. Oh, I get it. It's like the whole point.